MP Dickinson, you have
Thank you,
the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to speak to this legislation as a finance professional with almost 3 decades of industry experience. This experience includes having served for 3 years as Bermuda's Minister of Finance, having worked for 11 years as an investment banker in New York and in London, and having worked for almost 12 years as a senior leader in one of Bermuda's community and commercial banks, having run group-wide businesses for that organization. I rise to speak on this legislation as a Bermudian with deep concerns about the sustainability of our retirement savings regime, especially in light of the observations that are being made in other jurisdictions around this very same issue. Mr. Speaker, there may be disagreement in this room around this initiative, but I can certainly assure folks that there's probably unanimity in thought around members in this honorable House that we all broadly support home ownership in Bermuda. We can also agree that we are supportive of people having full participation in efforts to save for their retirements. It goes without saying that there is great pride to be had in owning a piece of the rock, and to be able to sustain yourself financially throughout your retirement. And we all want to strongly support efforts to achieve both. It has often been said that when the U.S. sneezes, Bermuda catches a cold. At a series of recent financial services conferences that I attended, the pension gap in the United States has been estimated at approximately $1 trillion annually. Yes, $1 trillion. What does that mean in simple terms? It means the difference between what is needed to fund retirements versus what is available to fund those retirements. It's called the pension gap, and it represents $1 trillion annually. The full number is $54 trillion. Mr. Speaker, this problem has arisen as a result of 2 primary factors. 1, people are not saving enough for their pensions. And 2, people are living longer in retirement. Mr. Speaker, I don't know the size of Bermuda's pension gap, but I do know that our contributory pension fund, our public service superannuation fund, our ministers, members of the legislature fund are all underfunded, and by a significant amount. And absent long past due reforms in these plans, the obligation of making up for those increasing shortfalls could fall on the government and ultimately the taxpayer. I also know that defined contribution plans became more prevalent in the United States in the 1970s. And Bermuda's own defined contribution legislation became operable in 2000, early 2000s. So the United States has an estimated 25-year head start on us with respect to these types of plans. And they have $1 trillion pension gap. Accepting that we have a smaller population, our pension gap in absolute terms will be much smaller. But what does much smaller mean? I don't know at this moment and would rather not speculate. I would suggest that the Ministry of Finance, the Pension Commission, and pension fund administrators work to identify strategies to figure out the size of the gap and strategies to close it. I also unequivocally take the view that we can ill afford to be engaging in policy decisions that are designed to allow individuals to reduce their pension balances before their retirement ages. Instead, we should be doing more to strongly encourage them to contribute more. I do note the observation made about Singapore, and I would say this: we all could do more to be like Singapore. Singapore has a national savings rate of approximately 40 to 50% of GDP. The United States' number is around 17 to 20% of GDP. While I haven't checked to see the size of Singapore's pension gap, I would argue that it's vastly smaller than others. Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a big supporter of home ownership and an equally big supporter of retirement savings. Notwithstanding my strong support for home ownership and retirement savings, I have found it difficult to support this legislation, which allows people to tap into their retirement savings to aid in fulfilling their dreams of making a down payment to buy a home. This lack of support is based largely on the fundamental characteristics of the current Bermuda defined contribution industry. We have relatively low plan balances, and that will make self-sustainability in retirement very difficult, if not impossible, for many. Mr. Speaker, there's a concept, a powerful concept in finance called compounding of interest, or the compounding effect. Compounding of interest is the process where interest is earned not only on the initial amount of money invested, but also on any interest that already has been added to the amount invested. This creates a snowball effect, where interest is continually earned on the ever-increasing balance. Compounding of interest is important to savers because it accelerates wealth growth. The longer the money is invested, the more significant the growth, even if interest rates are relatively modest. Time matters. Compounding works best over a long period of time. The earlier you start investing, the more you benefit from compounding. Even small investments can grow substantially over time due to compounding. Compounding is key to retirement savings. It is essential to retirement savings. By contributing regularly to a retirement account, even modest amounts, the interest earned compounds over the years, creating substantial savings for retirement. Of course, compounding also has some downsides if you're in debt, if you don't pay your credit cards off in full. The interest on those debts accrues, leading to larger balances. The compounding of interest is one of the primary reasons why we want people to start saving for their retirements early and for them to make consistent contributions. The compounding of interest is important because it maximizes returns on savings and investments over time, making it a crucial factor in wealth building and financial planning. The earlier and more consistently one takes advantage of it, the greater the benefit. For those who take capital out of their retirement savings, they lose the power of compounding on that capital, which makes them worse off in the long run. One of the biggest contributors to your pension balance is making the contributions early when they have maximum opportunity to grow over the longest period of time. Mr. Speaker, I can remember an exchange I had in 2018 with a somewhat prominent figure in our local community. The decision had been taken that I would run in the by-election that resulted from the vacancy created by former MP Jeff Barron's resignation. It was thought advisable that my profile be raised in the community. And in that vein, I was scheduled to participate in a forum. At that forum, there was a view expressed that I should take an adversarial approach to discussing Bermuda's financial services industry. I declined to take that approach and instead offered to speak on the benefits of financial literacy. I was told that financial literacy never improved anyone's life. That statement was as wrong then as it is wrong now. Being financially literate has always been important and is even more so now as we navigate a world with increased sophistication in the financial services marketplace. Financial literacy is a key to anyone seeking to gain financial independence, especially as markets continue to innovate and provide products to assist people in their financial matters. Financial literacy involves having the knowledge and understanding of the following components: budgeting, savings, investing, debt management, understanding financial products, understanding taxes, and understanding retirement planning. Mr. Speaker, I've already noted the size of the U.S. pension gap. Japan, a nation with one of the world's highest saving rates, is also facing a pension funding gap. Factors such as an aging population, a low birth rate, and a shrinking workforce have created real challenges for Japan and how it will manage its pension funding gap. The issues of aging population, low birth rate, and the shrinking or slow-growing workforce are not unique to Japan. Bermuda faces similar challenges. Last week, in a ministerial statement entitled "Helping to Build a Nation of Owners," Junior Minister of Finance Adams made a powerful point when explaining why the proposed benefits of this legislation would not be available to participants in defined benefits plans. His words were particularly sage as they relayed why such a benefit was not advisable to DB plan participants. His statement, and I quote, "Any deviation, such as a one-time refund, would undermine the stability of these plans and potentially affect the long-term security they are designed to offer." I'm not sure if Junior Minister Adams was aware at the time, but those same sage words are equally applicable to why withdrawals contemplated by this amendment should not be permitted. I believe that there are alternative ways to support the building of a nation of owners where the government can play a pivotal role. This is just not one of them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP